On June 27, 2008, Pixar released WallE, sharing with us the lonely life of the last robot left on Earth. The movie takes place in the year 2805 AD, 700 years after mankind took to the stars. Throughout WallE, we're faced with many puzzling concepts about what the future may be for us. In this video, we'll be exploring 10 things you never knew about Disney Pixar's WallE, and make sure you watch until the end to hear who the former captains of the Axiom are named after. WallE and R2D2 were played by the same actor. The first item on our list has to do with the sound designer that was in charge of the audio files used in the film. Bert created 2,400 sound files to be used for WallE. The team over at Pixar created WallE's voice by running Bert's voice through a computer, which he custom modified. There's no doubt that Bert played a major role in creating this masterpiece. But did you know that he also assisted on the set of the first Star Wars film released in 1977? For Star Wars, Ben made approximately 800 sound files, including the famous noises produced by none other than R2D2. The same noise was also used for the spaceship doors opening or closing. It's crazy to think that our favorite robots, WallE and R2D2, were voiced by the same person. There was a no elbows rule when creating WallE. Designing WallE and every object in the movie was a meticulously thought out process. This brings us to the next slot on our list. Did you know that there was a no elbows rule when they were designing the lovable WallE? Now, you may be asking yourself, what's a no elbow rule? You see, WallE is a trash compactor robot, so above everything else, the design team had to construct him as practically as possible. While elbows would have made it easier for WallE to visibly express himself, as a trash compactor bot, there would be no reason for him to have them, thus leading to the no elbows rule. Despite this rule, other concepts were thought about regarding his limbs. The team even considered tentacle-like collapsible arms, much like Dr. Octopus from Marvel's Spider-Man. But ultimately, they decided to base his arms on an inkjet printer. Basic and practical. The design for WallE was conceived at a baseball game. Up next, we have how the idea of our cherished main character WallE came about. Andrew Stanton, one of the writers and designers for WallE, decided to do what many people like to enjoy when they get the chance. He went to a baseball game. While at this game, someone sitting near him handed him a pair of binoculars. Now, instead of watching the game like most other fans, Andrew found himself staring at the front end of the binoculars. He claims that he missed the entire inning because after being handed the binoculars, he just turned them around and started staring. He says he started fumbling around with the binoculars, making them look sad and then happy. Then he made them mad, and he claims it brought him back to a childhood memory of him playing with his dad's binoculars in the same exact way. I mean, who didn't play with binoculars like that as a child? It was then that he knew that he had found the head design that was going to sit on top of WallE's body. EVE stands for Extraterrestrial Vegetation Evaluator. Fourth on the list today has to do with Eve, the newfound companion of WallE. As you may know, throughout the whole movie, the audience is given names of robots and ships that are actually acronyms. For the most part, the full name is pretty straightforward. WallE is a trash sorting robot. Therefore, his name stands for Waste Allocation Load Lifter Earth Class, which makes sense given the task they show him performing at the beginning of the movie. But what does EVE stand for? Well, EVE is essentially a bioterrestrial probe and has the necessary parts of a probing robot. She comes equipped with a bioscanner and flight capabilities. She is very dedicated to her job, which is currently to scan for any signs of self-sustaining plant life on Earth, thus giving her the name Extraterrestrial Vegetation Evaluator, or EVE for short. The character of Eve comes from the Bible. Our fifth detail also describes our beloved Eve, but with some implications of biblical proportions. Was Eve designed after the Eve mentioned in the Bible? Not everyone was raised with a Bible, but most people have heard the religious story of Adam and Eve. It is believed that the main protagonists of this movie, WallE and Eve, are a biblical reference to Adam and Eve. The concept goes, in the beginning, we see WallE cleaning up the mess that was once Earth. He is alone at first, and this loneliness is a reference to Adam's loneliness before Eve was created for him. Eve is a robot sent from the mothership to perform a bioscan of Earth. Eve also brings the seedling back to the Axiom to show signs of life. In the Bible of the book of Genesis, Eve is a metaphor used for a dove that brings Noah's Ark an olive branch, symbolizing life could be restarted and restored. The more we look, the more biblical references we seem to find in WallE. and this idea of new beginnings. The first time we see the color green in the film is when WallE finds the plant. Taking up the sixth slot is interesting and has to do with a lack of color in the first portion of the movie. Have you noticed that at the beginning of WallE, the majority of the colors we're seeing on Earth are shades of browns and grays? Everything is covered in a sand-like dusting. This was done on purpose. Did you notice that when WallE discovers the plant, the green that we see looks so alive and vibrant? That's because that plant is the first time that we see the color green in the movie. And in contrast with the dull and dark colors we had grown accustomed to with the movie, the green seemed to really explode off the screen. This shows the masterful use of color design that created one of my favorite scenes in the movie. It's so interesting how a lack of green can make the world seem so lifeless. When I saw that plant on my screen, it felt like a breath of fresh air for the year 2805. The movie's creators denied its environmental message. 7th place goes to the movie's creator, Andrew Stanton, and the fact that he, at one point, denied the movie's environmental message, despite the film clearly showing our planet and its growing problem with pollution and waste. WallE depicts a world that is engulfed in trash and debris that was left behind by humans after Earth was no longer inhabitable to humans, who found themselves lazily floating about through space. The idea of human inconvenience is very noticeable throughout the second half of the movie, after we find out that the humans are still alive. Though they left an entire planet in ruin, they still find themselves enthralled in a lifestyle fueled by consumption. Consumption that will ultimately lead to more waste. And with the way things are looking in the world around us, we're not that far off from WallE's reality. Even if Andrew Stanton claims that the movie was not a direct reference to the environmental crisis at hand, that didn't stop the movie from driving the message across our screens. Many see WallE as the most powerful environmental film of the decade. The original title was Trash Planet. Next, we have one that not many people know about. WallE came to our screens in 2008, but did you know that it had a different title at one point? Believe it or not, the idea of WallE was originally being developed by Andrew Stanton and Pete Docter for nearly 2 months back in 1995, more than a decade before the film's original release. Back in 1995, the movie wasn't known as WallE, the title we know it today. In fact, it was originally going to be named Trash Planet. Stanton and Docter admitted that at the time they didn't know where to go with the story or the character design, so Pete Docter ended up halting the project and working on Monsters Inc. instead. The only idea they had managed to get down was the fact that the main character, now WallE, was going to lead a revolution and encounter a nasty alien race that may have turned out to be humans. After the idea was ultimately passed, the concept never left Andrew Stanton. He said that the idea of a lone robot on a planet full of trash really struck something in him, even though many changes had already been made to the movie at this point. If it weren't for the idea of Trash Planet, we may not have ever been graced with the WallE we know and love today. In early versions of the script, humans had evolved into boneless, gelatinous blobs. Number 9 on our list is a bizarre one. During the early stages of production and character design, the humans we see enjoying their lazy space lifestyles were originally supposed to have evolved into boneless, gelatinous blobs. The idea was originally inspired by NASA scientist Jim Hicks, an expert on the effects that zero gravity has on the human body. Originally, Andrew Stanton's idea was to have the humans be so unrecognizable that even we, the audience, would think that they were an alien race. And then at the end of the film, through a Planet of the Apes style twist, the characters and the audience would discover that the blobs were in fact human. But he felt it was a bit too bizarre, and that he should pull that idea back a bit. That left us with the obese, lazy humans that had machines to move them from place to place. I, for one, am glad Stanton pulled back when he did. I'm not quite sure how I would feel about gelatinous blobs of people. All of the past captains of the Axiom are named after Pixar employees. Last but not least, we have the captains of the Axiom. The Axiom was one of many spacecrafts built by the By and Large Corporation that was used to evacuate humanity from the now dead Earth, while it was still being cleaned by their line of trash compactor robots. The Axiom was designed as a luxury cruise ship of the stars and was maintained almost entirely by robots. The ship is shown to have had many captains dating back from the year 2105, all of the way through 2805, when the film takes place. Over the course of those 700 years, the Axiom appears to have gone through 6 captains. Did you know that each of those captains was named after Pixar employees? First up, we have Captain Reardon, who served the Axiom from 2105 through 2248. He was named after a writer of the movie, Jim Reardon. Next up, we have Captain Phi, who served from the year 2248 through 2379. Phi was created in reference to a Pixar storyboard artist named Brian Phi. Following Captain Phi, we see a Captain Thompson, listed as serving from 2380 until 2520. Captain Thompson was designed after animator Rob Duquette Thompson. We then see a Captain Brace, also named after Thompson, who served the Axiom from 2521 through 2645. Second to last, we have Captain O'Brien, serving from 2646 until 2774. He referenced another storyboard artist at Pixar named Kevin O'Brien. The final captain that they show on the list is the current captain of the Axiom, Captain B. McCree, who had been serving since 2775. McCree is believed to be based on Jeff Garlin, who is the voice actor behind the character. As you can see, there is way more to WallE than meets the eye, and something tells me we have hardly scratched the surface. That's all, Disney fans. Let us know what you thought of this video in the comments, and like and subscribe for more magically packed videos.